I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The more you talk, the harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? No. You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for this weekend's next new release for 2026, and that's going to be for none other than the direct sequel to last year's 28 Years Later, literally just about 20 weeks after that film, The Bone Temple, or aka well, it might as well just be called the Part 2 of 28 Years Later. This might as well just be Part 2 of 28 Years Later. It might as well just call that at this rate. Because this technically is the other half of the film, really more than a sequel. And the plot of this one is, you remember from the stupid Power Rangers shit from the end of the last one? Well, it picks up from that ending where he gets inducted into the Power Ranger Jimmy's gang on the mainland. And, well, he discovers that they're not quite the rescuers he believed they would be at the end of that film. And then meanwhile, our doctor we also saw at the end of the last one makes a discovery that could alter the world. So, as my reaction, this is out 28 weeks after 28 Years Later, and you all remember everybody's thoughts on that film, or mixed thoughts, and you remember my personal thoughts on it. As divisive as that film was, with many that saw the trailer and just thought, yeah, this is going to be zombie carnage. 24 hours 7. I can't wait to see more of these infected kill more people. And stuff. I can't wait to see this to be as traumatizing as shit. Well, when it came out, they were like, what? That wasn't traumatizing as shit? Oh, come on. This sucks. I wanted zombies killing people. Despite the fact that was obviously new, that was not going to be the movie 24/7. Obviously, there's going to be more than just what was seen in the trailers. The trailers aren't supposed to show everything. I personally thought it was one of the better legacy horror sequels out there. You know, at least it didn't retcon 28 weeks later. At least be grateful it didn't retcon that film that everybody considers the best one of the series, which, to be fair, I don't think it is. I don't think it's the best one at all. I have problems with 28 Weeks Later. Lots of them, but it's still a good film, but I don't think it's the best one that everyone calls it. And so, let's be real. We knew there'd be more in 28 Years Later compared to just what the trailers showed. I'm surprised people are all mad about it going drama when the first film had drama too. The bit when Jim and Selena met Frank and Hannah, and most of the half with them was all drama, where they were on the road and cautiously avoiding infected and actually just bonding at a grocery store that had so much fresh stock. And they raided the whole entire place. You know, they actually felt like a family in that moment. So why is it suddenly bad if this goes drama too? The first one went plenty of drama scenes. So that criticism really makes no sense. Now, this film, what I can agree with people on was the last one's ending was stupid. After you went through a drama bit when Spike's mom eventually got diagnosed with cancer and Kelson, at her request, because those thinking that he just basically murdered her, no, she requested to be put out of her misery. You can literally see on her face, she actually told Kelson, she actually wanted Kelson to kill her. That's why he killed her. That's kind of the point. Now the stuff with Alza, sure, fine. that stuff maybe could have been improved better, you know, maybe give Alza better character developments, you know, maybe don't make her brain dead most of the film, actually give her some bit of character development, you know, and then make her destiny actually feel a little more believable. Like, now I can agree on, the thing is, like, after we saw all that drama or emotion stuff, how the movie basically ends, you know, instead of just simply ending with Spike leaving for the mainland and just leaving it there because we know there's going to be a part 2 anyway, they basically decide their cliffhanger needs to be these goofy fucking people just magically show the fuck up out of nowhere with Teletubbies music referencing fucking Power Rangers. And so the next part 2 is like, oh, it's gonna be about these fucking people. Yeah, I don't know how this is gonna go. And what also really, like, the trailers were also came out, and the trailers were laughable. The poster, like, the poster, like, the first poster you saw, that poster looked fucking laughable too. And of course, what also added worse problems, it was gonna be directed by the same lady who did, oh right, did Candyman 2021, the requel or reboot sequel that basically retconned the entire first film. Yeah, that terrible fucking movie. And directed The Marvels. Yeah, that's all you perfectly needed to know. Great. Yeah. And apparently in this, they were explaining that these guys are actually evil people, but after their entrance in the last one, couldn't take them seriously in the trailers. But I saw the movie, so how was it? So, as much as I hate Nita Costa as a director, this is going to sound weird to say. I think I might have actually liked this one. So, and honestly, you know what? I liked it a lot. I kind of liked it slightly more than the last one because the thing is, now, well, yeah, I still like the last one, but I feel this one just felt a little more better paced. You know, I mean, it kind of felt like, I think maybe they were just saving the horror for this one and kind of saving the slower stuff for the last one in a way. And you know, I kind of like how kind of metal it goes. I mean, they don't do the ending of the last one silliness. No, thankfully they don't go like that. That still gets silly, but the silliness isn't as bad as how the last one ended. It's not, that silliness was bad. This one is actually, you know, normal kind of silliness, you know? In a way. Some people, though, are probably still not going to like it because there's barely any zombies in it. Why? Or, we wanted more zombie carnage. This isn't what we were promised. So, like, another thing I should have mentioned, these 20 Days Later maybe have zombies in it, but it's not really a zombie movie per se. It's got zombies, but it's not really a zombies. It was never really a film purely about zombies to begin with. A film series about zombies to begin with. And it's another problem after 28 Weeks Later. Is that 20 Weeks Later really Americanized all these guys. Americanized this series too much. Okay, you know what? We're 7 minutes in this. Let's just get on with the production. So, we all know this was kind of shot back to back. In a way, with 28 Years Later, while Danny Boyle directed the last one, Nia DaCosta would take over the production of this one, and they released this 7 months after on January. The last one was released last summer, and to be fair, part of me does kind of wish they kind of took some time. First, I'll get to that stuff later, but after the film was shot and completed, 20 years later, The Bone Temple was released by Sony Pictures, releasing in the United Kingdom on January 13, 2026, with a double bill with its predecessor, and got released individually the following day on January 14th. Then in the United States, it was released on January 16th this weekend. Much like the last one, it got positive reviews from critics, and actually, you know what? It didn't just get positive reviews, it got better reviews from critics. And a sequel to The Bone Temple is in development, but it kind of already started developing one after the reactions, but I thought they were going to wait for the box office first because this one is on track to not perform as well, and I can see why. It's because the reaction, because when they saw the trailer for this one, the people that didn't like the last one was like, I didn't like 20 Years Later, so I don't know if I want to go see this in the theater if I didn't like the last one, so what's the point? I'll either skip it or wait for streaming. So if it doesn't perform as well, I wouldn't be surprised. And another factor is that, oh, since the lady who did Candyman and the Marvels, that also really makes me not really want to see it, because I didn't like either, because we didn't really like either of those films. So that's why it's kind of earning less. It earned less compared to the opening night of last year. So don't be, if it doesn't do well opening weekend, don't be surprised. I'm not going to be surprised. Okay, I'm sorry this took 9 minutes, guys, but we're on to good qualities and story now for the Bone Temple. So I like how each 28 Days and Years movie focuses on different aspects. Like the last one kind of focused on the start of the outbreak. The second one, as weak as that film is, it focuses on trying to rebuild, but then consequences start from getting it too early and not waiting a little bit to repopulate anything and starting over again. The last one showed how what really happened with Britain after the whole outbreak really evolved, and shows like how it's really kind of started to evolve and have some changes to it all. This one involves religion, cults, and philosophical elements added in with some meaner, weirder, and bolder ideas to keep things fresh. Danny Boyle's flair is not really here in this one because this is a different director this time. Nia DaCosta does kind of deliver in this one, takes some like shot and clean approach to the franchise's look and feel. It's a much smaller scale movie than the last ones, and makes it more focused and honestly better paced and handled than the last one kind of was. The last one, sure, maybe it did kind of get a little slow at times, I can admit that. This movie just does get handled by the performances of Ralph Fiennes, who's back from the last one, and Jack O'Connell, surprisingly. Like, the Power Ranger Jimmies are honestly a little bit better handled here than they were in the last one. Alfie Williams is still great, but to be fair, Alfie Williams kind of really doesn't do a lot in this movie. In fact, like, he doesn't really do a lot other than really kind of observe the Jimmies or kind of take a backseat in this one. Most of the film is about either the Jimmies or Dr. Kelson. This time around, this time it's kind of Kelson the Jimmy's movie. Spike's kind of just really there to kind of really be there, and they got the lead alpha Samson, that's played by Chi Lewis Perry, which you saw a few minor glimpses of the alphas in the last one. Does kind of shine and bring this new humane approach to the infected side of things. And yeah, now some say the film is very violent and grisly, but in all fairness, it didn't really feel violent at all. I mean, there was some gore in the bit where the Jimmies kidnap these scavengers and torture them. Yeah, that was pretty gnarly, but there's not really much that violent else, really. It wasn't really that violent. Oh yeah, and the opening little brawl. That too. Like, our lead Jimmy here uses the threat of violence and stories of Old Nick to really manipulate and control his minions and really drive them to commit acts of evil. And Samson does regain his humanity under the care of Kelson, right there. Or this one, the affected aren't really the monsters in this one. This time the Jimmy cult are really the monsters. So how do we start off the film? So we start off right where the last one left off, where Spike, having been freed by the Jimmy, having been found by the Jimmies, is now at this little abandoned pool area where they make him fight one of their other Jimmies to the death so he can join them. And you find out that his wannabe rescuer didn't actually seem like he was really rescuing at all. He just needed a recruit at this point. He just wanted a new member. So him and Jimmy Shee fight, ending with Spike cutting one of Sheet's arteries and kills him. At first, I thought he stabbed his dick, but he actually just stabbed his arteries. It almost kind of looked like he stabbed him in the crotch area. Almost. So, Spike gets inducted and then ends up reluctantly joining the Jimmies, which pretty much includes Jimmy Inc., who is the only one that actually has much sympathy and is not really a fan of Jimmy's little violent acts or sadistic personality. It's kind of where it starts off. So, this one does kind of improve upon what 28 Years Later did, but people didn't really like, and still being a great villain in its own right. Like, Ralph Fiennes in this one actually gets a much better role here, whereas the last one he was only in it for like the final act. And now some of this stuff I didn't really like per se. Like, now The Alpha in this one gets more of a role, and this time it's named Samson, and it propels his entry to be a much better film than 28 years later and 20 weeks later was. And honestly, I think it's the best of the sequels. No, I don't think it's better than 28 Days Later at all. Alex Garland's script is grim with dashes of hope, and DaCosta's direction doesn't really waste no time getting right to the story and the carnage, whereas the last one kind of did take its time. And of course, now if you would be a little worried for a rush sequel that would have a new director, but the movie does surprisingly nail it. The plot is nicely done. The suspense of the film is less intense compared to the first one, though, so that might be another divisive reason for people that were kind of hoping for more suspense. Well, there's not really much suspense in the film right there, and the series wasn't always about suspense, though. That's kind of the point, like I said. It does bridge right from the previous film. Like, it's got a great ending that sets up the next one that, as much as I know it probably is not going to do well at the box office, I do hope we get it. I do kind of hope we still get that other one with the way it ended, with the way this movie ended. And it grabs you in with a great score. And I was actually immersed within minutes. Like, it's got this terrific feel to the film. And some of the characters that do have some not bad story arcs. And the acting was pretty top notch. So when we get back to the Jimmies, like the Jimmies, on the other hand, pretty much what we see them do is the Jimmies actually roam across land, and they pretty much kill any scavengers they see, skin them alive. Like this bit, some of the bits with the Jimmies are a little bit savage and disturbing. Not as disturbing as some of the early reactions were kind of calling it, but the visions develop as they head towards their encounter at the Bone Temple with Kelson, and we see a bit more of the devastated countryside. And it turns like the hunts, like with the packs led by alphas, and some survivors get eaten before they can really turn. Like one scene has a spinal column get actually ripped out from a body by alpha. A taste some other brains and stuff. They get eaten by the alpha. Like, yeah, this film still has some gore. I mean, I still don't think it's as gory as some are kind of calling it, but there was still some good gore in the film. It wasn't gore that like maybe, ugh, like it really wasn't that grisly. Let's just say that. Good gore, but not like one of the goriest things to be filmed. So we get to Kelson, and he actually gets a bigger role this time around. He continues his maintenance of the Bone Temples we saw in the last one. He then encounters this local alpha that he names Samson. Then Kelson fends him off and dates him with a blowgun and dart. And throughout the time, Samson will keep returning to the Bone Temple. And Kelson realizes he grew addicted to the morphine and lets himself be drugged. And Kelson notices Samson appears more elusive while drugged and starts experimenting and sees if he can cure Samson's rage virus. An apparent friendship then begins between the two. And I didn't really like, this is one of the bits of the first act I didn't really like. At one point, Kelson basically does this romantic dance duet with the alpha, and that bit had me worried, like, oh, are they gonna actually go this fucking route where they fall in love or something? I hope they don't do this shit, but surprisingly, thankfully, that's the only really cringe thing about the Kelson stuff. Now, the Kelson stuff was fine. I hate to be saying this, but I kind of wish we saw a little bit more of this cult after they actually were surprisingly kind of taken much more seriously this time around. So eventually, after a little bit of time with Kelson, we do get back to the Jimmies, where they go to this farm that's occupied by survivors. One of them is this pregnant girl and her husband, and they round up, and eventually when they get there, they see they've gotten into their house when they get back, and they're basically demanding food and basically making one of the Jimmies entertain them. And this was one part of the Jimmies act I did not like. So one of the Jimmies literally is mimics, because you remember, you saw Jimmy as a kid in the last one watching Teletubbies before he got hidden upstairs at the beginning of the last one. So he talks to them about Teletubbies, and one of them actually goes up, does the Teletubby dance, even twerk her ass even, and this is another bit where I was like, why do you have to do this? Are you seriously kidding me right now? like, now, yeah, I still like the film, but I still have bad qualities with it. That's the thing. I still have some bad qualities, like some of the bits with the alpha were cringe, and this Teletubby dance scene should not have been in the damn film. Like, that's another thing. Like that's one of the things I was worried about in the last one, going this kind of route. And times it feels like it's almost gonna, but thankfully they don't. But then after that, they round up the survivors, and while Kathy does escape, the Jimmies then pretty much, and this was a bit of a gnarly bit, where they skin the survivors as part of their worship of the devil, who our lead Jimmy claims to be his father, and pretty much Spike tries to go and is disgusted by what his rescuers are really trying, and now realizes their actions. In the trailers, I thought, they were going to brainwash Spike into being a killer like them or something, and no, actually, like, Spike doesn't take part in any of the killings, and he's actually basically watches the killings when they do any of the killings, and what he sees, he's grossed out when he realizes what these people really are, and now he's pretty much conducted himself into a group of serial killers, and he's grossed out by this. But then Jimmy Inc. comes back and says, no, you can't no, this is what we do. You're not allowed to stay away. You're not allowed to look away from any of this. You want to be a part of this club, this is what you have to do. But he pretty much, though, Jimmy Inc., though, is actually the most sympathetic one of the game. And later on observes, like, Kelson still dancing with the alpha, and when we get back to the Jimmies, our lead Jimmy offers the last survivor left a place if he kills a Jimmy, and at first, Tom thinks, like, one of the Jimmies, other female Jimmy, the one who did the stupid Teletubby dance, is going to be the easiest one, but it turns out this Jimmy kills him, overpowers him, like, I just make it look easy, and kills his Jimima. Or, no, actually, though, she actually easily defeats him, and then she's about to kill Tom, but Kathy returns, and the pregnant one returns and kills the Teletubby dancer. And then a fight ensues, and Tom is able to set the barn on fire, though. And another one of the Jimmies is killed, and then burns several others before being killed herself. And of course, then she does try to escape, but Spike's like, take me with you, but she pretty much doesn't take, and pretty much punches him out and escapes herself before she's killed. And in all honesty, her pretty much refusing to take him with her makes sense, because here's the thing. He is with the killers that kidnapped her and killed the group she was with. So, and probably thinks it's a trick. So, why would she really take him with her if he's with those killers? It makes sense on her part. Like, the villain is definitely pretty fascinating. He's not just really scary, but he's kind of interesting, because these Power Ranger Jimmies, like, while they acted like Power Ranger posers at the end of the last one, they actually are rewritten here, and they actually do get under your skin at times. There's real menace with these characters, with ideology and madness, and it gives the film a psychological bite that elevates the gore and doesn't really drown in it. And it does have gore, not like the crazy kind of gore, and nothing really drags. Like, it actually does feel like it goes by like a breeze. It doesn't even try to cash in on nostalgia or outshock the originals for the sake of it. It does feel confident, strange, properly alive. From the opening moments, it's pretty trippy, it's pretty metal, it's pretty tense. It's kind of unsettling in a very 28 Days way possible. And you're on the edge the whole time, and never bored. And Ralph Fiennes does a terrific job as Kelson in this movie. Like, Kelson interactions with Samson are sometimes a little cringy, like the dance bits, but thankfully they do get a bit more delightful, and She Lewis Perry does bring so much to Samson's character than mere physicality, and there's a softness and quality in his performance that really elevates the movie. So, after Kathy fled and encountered Spike, and she punched him out when he tried to escape with her, he pretty much then starts to form a friendship with Jimmy Inc., when he tries to say, I want to get out of this place, I want to go elsewhere. But Jimmy Inc. tells him, there's nothing else out there. You can't go anywhere. And then pretty much makes a friendship with him. But then, of course, when they get back, she lies that he basically in a way almost did attempt to escape though, or no, or something like that. And then the lead Jimmy is mad. It's like, I can't believe you let her get away. Like, what happened to you? You know, you should apologize to everybody else, and maybe you don't deserve to be a part of us. We should talk to old Nick about your punishment or execution. And lashing out at his fingers. And of course, Jimmy Ink then tells him about Kelson and decides that they're all going to go to the Bone Temple. And when he sees and of course, he then meets with Kelson and they have a bit of a conversation where he says, if you don't bring me old Nick, I'm going to kill you. To get the fingers back in line. And Kelson is a little spooked by Jimmy's psychotic sadism and pretty much gives Samson a higher dosage that seems to cure him of the rage virus. And then Samson right there remembers his childhood and kills several infected when he goes back to the train from the last one. Or overseas like that, or the train conductor demanding a ticket, and then pretty much before like the whole rage thing broke out. And he remembers that, and then he kills more infected people. And the greatest strength does lie in the atmosphere. Like from the opening sequences, the tone is heavy, the interiors are dimly lit, you have palettes that are cold colored, and a sense that something wrong could actually happen before the plot fully takes shape. The score reinforces the tension effectively and suggests an impending horror film that never quite arrives in the expected way possible. And this mismatch between the musical cues and their direction may frustrate some viewers still, because I could see this movie still frustrating, dividing some viewers again, like the last one did. But it signals the film refusal for genre fall, for genre formulas, and of course, like the Bone Temple has this narratively great opaque. Major characters do get introduced slowly, some key figures remain absent, and instead of like building momentum through story beats, you get mood symbolism, you get repetition. Like the cult does feel more a bit like a cohesive belief system and a defined obsession about violence, identity projection, of characters that likely went insane during the whole outbreak. The ambiguity can be interpreted as very intentional, but sometimes it does border on under development at times, but sometimes it also doesn't. In a way, and it's like whether some of the approach this way goes feels either meaningful or gratuitous, it depends on kind of the viewer's tolerance for ambiguity or storytelling. And there's times it does try to get all comedic, which, to be fair, some of the comedic stuff doesn't really work, but Alice Garland Sharp's screenplay does manage to fix it from getting too ridiculous. The final act, the silliness in the final act actually does work. It's the silliness in the first bits that don't. Nia DaCosta does give some confident direction, surprisingly, and balances dread with well-timed dark humor, and the Bone Temple really serves as a reminder of, potential for DaCosta's capabilities to become a better filmmaker. There, and this time around, her direction actually felt clear, controlled, and uncompromised. So now we get on with the finale of the movie. So the Jimmies go to the Bone Temple, and Kelson pretty much drugs them, and then performs this lip sync performance of the Iron Maiden song, The Number of the Beast. And he knows something. As expected, this is kind of where you get the laughable shot from the first poster. And surprisingly, this scene was actually kind of cool. When Kelson appears like dressed up all satanic, does this epic showdown for Number of the Beast, and actually gets the Jimmies addicted to it. And kind of the way of fooling them. But this was actually kind of a cool bit right here. This was a much better attempt at a silly final act than the last one did here. Then Kelson is playing along with the Jimmy Crip, with the lead Jimmy, to get the fingers back under control, but eventually then he remembers Spike when he sees him, and Spike is there and sees Spike with them. And when he realizes they basically brainwashed Spike, he doesn't exactly berate Spike for joining these guys at all. No, he clearly sees these guys kidnapped and tried to brainwash Spike to be like them. So he coaxes the fingers into basically going against the lead Jimmy and crucifying him. But the lead Jimmy is onto this and fatally stabs Kelson. And then, of course, Jimmy Inc. decides she's finally done with the Jimmies at this rate and kills the remaining Jimmies. And, of course, during all this, like, when the lead Jimmy is killing Kelson, Spike actually decides realizes he can't be a part of the Jimmies now and kills the lead Jimmy. because he's now realized by basically now being forced to join them, it's now brought Kelson to his death. But Spike comforts Kelson as he dies, but Kelson reassures Spike that nothing is his fault. And our Jimmy Inc. then pretty much, we don't see this happen, but she crucifies our lead Jimmy on a cross that's inverted like the one he wears. And then finally, Inc. actually introduces herself to Spike as Kelly, her real name. And so they throw off their Jimmy wigs and they leave. And our lead Jimmy is bleeding to death on the cross. And then he sees Samson. He hallucinates him to be the devil. Carries away Kelson's body. And then, of course, for a little bit, it pans up to the sky. And then an affected person comes by and kills him. And to be fair, I kind of knew this jump scare was coming. So I plugged my ears and I was predicting it to happen any time, and like by that time that the whole pan out was starting to die out, it finally did. So yeah, so I plugged my ears at this bit in the theater. And then of course, the last ending you get. This is gonna excite you guys. And this excited and this actually got a lot of people excited in the theater. You remember they promised how Jim from the first film was gonna be in the last one, but that did not happen at all, and some were speculating for a while, maybe he died, maybe he became one of the infected. Well, guess what? He did not die, nor did he get infected. And some say, but what about the Aftermath comic? The Aftermath comic is not canon. And I'm glad it ain't. If it was, it'd be bullshit. But you see a daughter being homeschooled. And the person that comes out as actually homeschooling her is Jim. Yes, guys, Jim, they actually finally put Jim in this. Jim is finally back. He's been alive this whole time. All these 20 years he's been alive. And he's been living on the mainland well. Perfectly safe from the infected. Although I was wondering, where's Selena and Hannah? What happened to them? You know, maybe I'm thinking they'll probably, if they're able to make the third one, I hope maybe they're able to explain what happened to them. But I'm glad we finally get to see Jim again. But they hear noise outside, and they see Kelly and Spike fleeing from the infected, and so the girl's like, should we help them? And Jim says, yes. So they get all their weapons, and you guess what? Another part that's great, you hear In a House in a Heartbeat finally in this movie. One criticism I have with the last one is that you didn't really see In a House in a Heartbeat in the last one at all, despite it being a 28 Days Later film, and it should have been. Like, it should have been at the end of the last one. But this time around, they finally put the theme in the movie, and they pretty much rush out to go help them. And that's how the film beautifully ends right there. That's how the Bone Temple ends. It was epic seeing Jim finally again, and seeing that he at least has a daughter now, but if the next one happens, I hope they explain what happened to Selena and Hannah, or at least see them, or maybe explain at least why they're not there, if they either did get rescued, or they died. I hope we find out in the next one if it's able to get made still. Maybe they'll still make it, who knows? But I don't know. But I hope it does. Because it seems like now with this third one, they're gonna now go back to the tone of the first one. They're probably gonna go back. They're gonna go back to being like the first one with the next one, and actually having Cillian Murphy back. So I'm excited to see where this next one goes. I hope it gets made. I'm excited to see I kind of want to see the next one now. Now that Jim is back. All right. Do I have any bad qualities with the film? Yes, I do. The problem I have is that there's times the film goes too heavy in liability stuff. The first film, the mom did fill that role well, and it did try to at least add some depth and emotional weight to the story, even though she wasn't too well developed of a character. But here, because everything Spike went through, you feel like at the end Spike was going to have more room for growth, especially because he's already experienced everything well on the mainland. You think he'd finally have experience more, but it never really happens. Like, that's the thing. Spike barely plays a role in the film. He's kind of just there grouped with the Jimmies. Doesn't really do a whole lot to the plots. Like, they don't really do a lot with this character. Like, I want to see him come to terms with the world he's in, or kind of see, like, how much he's kind of on his own now at this rate. And, like, there was a missed opportunity with the Jimmy Inc. character, like, knowing that Spike's mom really died, she could have played a stronger role, you know, kind of being that new mom figure, you know, playing a bit of a more role in teaching Spike to survive, and maybe their dynamic could have been made a little more sense, but their times Deans just felt underdeveloped because they didn't really focus on that. And the first act stuff, there's some silly stuff in the first act I wish they did not do. I wish they did not do Kelson dancing with the alpha, which I wish that did not happen. I wish they did not have one of the Jimmies do a Teletubby dance and twerk her ass in the scavengers' faces. Like, that was stupid as shit, man. You didn't need to do that crap. I mean, it's not as infuriating as how the last one ended, but it's still just kind of a stupid way to get us introduced to the story. The final act stuff I can actually live with because the final act stuff was actually awesome. The Iron Maiden bit was cool. Like, the trailer made it look laughable, but it was actually surprisingly really impressive. So, other than those, like, and I guess a bad quality with people is that the zombies aren't really shown a lot in this one. Most of the film is just about the Jimmies and Kelson. And that's going to turn off a lot of people. So other than those, the Bone Temple was a surprise for me for someone who thought it was going to suck, with it being about the guys from the end of the last one, but thankfully that wasn't the case. This film was actually surprisingly great, and also another horror film that surpassed the Fuck You, It's January curse. So 2 horror films surpassing the January month curse, huh? I think this year might be off, actually is somewhat, for movies anyways, this year is off to a surprisingly great start. We had Primate, and we had this. This is quite a shock for January. So in the end, I would say 20 years later, The Bone Temple, if the people who were fans of the last one, that is, not if you weren't. It's worth a buy if you're still a fan of this series, for if you weren't big on the last one, but hoping for a better film. Well, this one is a better film, so it is still worth a buy and worth a watch, even if you didn't like the last one. Anyways, that's it for my review of The Bone Temple. And if we're going to rank The Bone Temple, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, even if you weren't a fan of the last one, but still hope to see how the other half goes, then I would totally watch and buy The Bone Temple for your collection for sure, no doubt. And if we're going to rank 20 years later The Bone Temple, I'm going to give 20 years later The Bone Temple an 8.5 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That officially wraps up my review for The Bone Temple. Now, I want to know in the comments down below for those who have seen The Bone Temple last night, or are about to, or those who have seen The Bone Temple already, who went and saw it last night, or the Thursday previews, or just got back from seeing it, what you all thought about it, whether you liked it better, or whether you hated it more. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.